MIT conducted a piece of research back in August, and what they found was that 95% of corporate AI projects were failing. Now, there was some pushback from the industry around the methodologies that they were using in that research, but I think the sentiment still stands. Companies and businesses of all sizes are not fully understanding how they're getting ROI and value out of their AI and automation projects. Companies are throwing billions and billions of dollars into AI. The investment is huge, and yet we're seeing companies, and certainly I see companies telling me that they don't know what the value is. And when I ask them for the numbers and the metrics and the data, they cannot give me a cold, hard answer for the value that they're getting out of whatever they're spending. Most companies are spending anywhere between $5 and $20,000-$30,000 on a project, and they're not able to then say, okay, well, what are you getting for your money? So in this video, I want to go through some like key like maths equations, and you need to think about when you're looking at AI and automation and how to look at that return on investment. A lot of this is there's like real hidden maths within AI and automation, and I think a lot of people overlook it. So look, yeah, as with everything on the channel, this is all about the business side of AI and automation, and making sure that you can make really good informed decisions on your program, on your strategy, and ultimately to make sure you're not just spending money on things that aren't going to work for you. So look, let's get into it. So before we kind of jump straight into it, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. There's three kind of key reasons, I believe, as to why there is so much disconnect between AI spend and measuring the ROI and the value, and what typically most people get wrong. So the number one reason for failure is not having a clear business goal from the get-go. So I think a lot of business leaders, execs and board members, certainly that I speak to, they kind of get swept up in the hype, right? And they're chasing the newest shiny AI tool. So for me, the number one reason is no business goals, okay? So we've got up here, no business goals. So that's kind of the number one reason. The second big mistake I see people making is underestimating the true cost of AI. So most people will see a $50 a month subscription for a tool and think, brilliant, that's it. But that ignores quite a lot of the hidden costs. That's think about the hours your team spends on learning it, the price of integration with your other systems, the cost of cleaning up your data just to make the tool work, and then all the ongoing maintenance, right? And so what we actually kind of find out is that that data prep alone and a lot of the stuff in the back end can eat into a huge chunk of your project cost. So we've got here, so the second reason is true cost, okay? The third reason, and finally the most common mistake, and what we're going to talk about today, is the complete disregard and failure to measure the ROI and the value. And there was actually a study done by, I think it was Wharton and GBK, I can't remember the exact names, but they found that while the AI usage is soaring, many companies are just scrambling to figure out how to even measure that ROI. So a lot of businesses, they run on gut feelings, right? So they actually just, what we'll put here is gut feelings. And gut feelings don't work well in business, right? They think that AI is making them more efficient. Maybe they feel like it's helping sales. But when you actually come to look at your bill and look at how much you're spending, you have zero numbers to back it up. So I want to go into today, there's kind of three core, kind of couple of formulas I want to talk to you about and kind of go through, and just really, really simple kind of maths and logic that you should be, thinking about with AI and automation, right? Like, I don't think this is you shouldn't be going into this, with completely blind. You have to have an idea of what that looks like. So cool. So let's go into the first and most kind of critical piece of maths that you're going to be doing, right? And this is the master formula. This is the formula to rule all formulas, and it's the best way, in my opinion, to measure a return on investments, right? So the formula looks like this. So it is net benefits, so net ben divided by the total investment, and then it's times that by 100. Okay, so let's first of all break down what I mean by total investment. So like we just kind of talked about, this is not just the sticker price of the software. To get your true cost, you need to add everything up. So the software subscription or license fees. So that's, you got one cost here is the license. Then you have, if you need to think about your setup, so your setup and implementation. Setup / implementation. Then you will have the cost of employee training. So you need to think about training. Then you will have the cost of integrating it with other software. So your CRM, your project management tool, whatever that is. So that is your implementation and then training. Yeah, and then we've got integrating. Yeah. And then you have, of course, you've got maintenance, right? So maintenance as well, because AIs and models are coming out all the time. So effectively, AI models will be non-existent, right? Think of how far we've come from the days of GPT-3, which was only last year, to now we're on GPT 5.1, right? And there is a cost associated with this, right? Cool. So what we've got there is kind of you start to see and you start to understand that you build up a bigger picture of what the total investment actually is when you're looking at your AI program. And I can always promise you the number is always higher than most people think. So now we have the other side of that. So this is the total investment. Now we have the other side of the coin, which is your net benefits. So let's take that away. Let's do net benefits. So this is where you tally up the value your AI is creating. So this is your total gains minus your total costs. And this value usually comes from two places, or the most easiest to find, which is cost saving and revenue growth. Okay, so this is going to be cost saving or revenue. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. So let's do a quick case study, because I think it's easier to do this as like a real life example rather than just kind of making up some numbers. So if you imagine you're a small consulting firm, right, and you invest into an AI tool to automate research and report generation. Now that consulting firm, the total investment for the year comes out to, let's say, $20,000. Okay, so we've got $20,000. So we've got this consulting firm, and they've kind of worked out. They've gone, right, okay, well, this includes our $5,000 license fee. This includes a $5,000 for a contractor / consultant to come in, set it up, do the employee training. Someone like myself would do this, and that's a cost. And then you've also got anything, let's say the team's time is worth $10,000. So that $20,000 have made up kind of three core areas, but of course you can slightly expand on that as well as you, if you have more complicated AI programs or whatever it might be, you can expand on that. So now we need to work out the net benefits. Okay, so how do we work that out? So the automation, let's say the automation slashes the time consultants spend on manual research, and we've worked how that leads to a cost saving of around, let's say, $30,000. Okay, so we've got our cost here, cost saving, and we worked out, so $30,000. Okay, cool. Plus we are creating a better reports faster, and then that means they can take on more clients, which leads to a direct revenue growth of, say, 50,000. Okay, and I'm kind of doing this a bit off the cuff, so I have no doubt someone's going to challenge me on the maths on this, but it's just to give you an idea of how to work things out. So the total benefit that they've got is these two together, so which is 80,000. So we've got $80,000 here. It's those two plus together. And then it's going to be minus the 20,000 because that was our cost over here. So 80,000 minus the 20. And we've got a 60,000. So we're not done just yet. So that's a relatively straightforward piece of maths that we've done, right? We're not doing anything too complicated. The more challenging part you're going to have is this part here. And I've not got time in this video to go through it, but if you want another video on this, I can certainly show you. But working out the cost saved, right? So how do you work out that cost saved in labor and things like that? Okay, well, that's a little bit more deep dive into the hours that your consultant spends on it, how much you're paying those people, other third parties you might be paying to help with those reports and what that looks like. So yeah, there's some maths within this as well, but let's just kind of stick to a real basic kind of formula for now. So we now have so we now need to plug that 60,000 into our formula. And someone may have already worked this out because you're a maths whiz, but what we've got is 60,000 divided by our 20,000, and then we're going to times that by 100, and we equal 300%. So in 1 year, we can say that you got a 300% return on your AI investment. Now, this is the kind of maths that turns a technology expense into a massive advantage, right? For your finance team, you as a business, you can start to piece together, okay, what are we actually getting out of this? And then you can start to prove that within this example, you can prove that for every dollar you put into AI, you got $3 back, okay? So $1 actually equals $3 back. Okay, really, really basic. This is a super basic formula, and it's nothing too difficult to kind of work out. Like I say, the challenging part is you have to be clear on revenue growth is easy. Okay, that's one of the easiest things to look at, right? The harder thing is kind of that cost saved, because you've got to work out some other pieces within that. Cool. So let's move on to the next bit. So we want to think about efficiency. So where we can look at things like, let's think. Let me kind of rephrase it. So the quickest win with AI comes from cost savings. Especially through efficiency. Revenue growth is easier to measure, but isn't always as quick because there is a time delay, right? Even if AI is helping you with revenue, but you're an enterprise customer, it still takes time to close those deals. There is still a sales cycle that exists, right, before you actually see that money in your bank account. So for most businesses, the quickest win with AI comes from cost savings. And this is where AI will takes over those very repetitive, kind of soul-crushing tasks that your team do, and it frees up your team to do work that actually is important and that actually matters to the business. The math here is very, very simple because basically time saved is money saved, right? So really, really simple formula, and I'm going to do it over on this side. Actually, let me just bring this up. So really, really simple formula, which is going to be hours saved per month. And we're going to hours saved per month times by the average employee hourly cost equals your monthly savings. Very straightforward. Equals your monthly savings. Now, I'm sure most people are going to know how to work this out. However, just for the sake of this video, to make it super easy to help you kind of visualize the maths on it, let's just go through a very, very simple, again, kind of scenario. So let's take a common business headache. So let's say manually processing invoices. Okay, manually processing invoices. Okay, so this is our scenario. Cool. So let's let's apply a formula to this. So if we say, I don't know, let's think about it. Let's say we're an e-commerce shop with an admin who spends, so our admin in our e-commerce example, admin, say she spends or he spends 20 hours a week just on invoices and data entry. So 20 hours a week on data entry. Okay, so now let's say their fully loaded cost to the business is $30 an hour. Now remember, your fully loaded cost is not their salary, because there are other things that person, so the cost to hire someone is obviously a lot more than just their salary, okay? Employee benefits, bonuses, all of those kind of things is what you need to think about. So let's just say we worked it out that our admin, the cost of the business is $30 per hour. Now, before, very, very simple, we can go, okay, well, 20 hours a week and at $30 an hour, that's 600. So 20 times 30 equals 600. Okay, so we're spending $600 every single week on that particular task. Now let's say we bring in an AI tool that automates even 80% of that work. That same workload now takes that employee just 4 hours a week. So that same person is 4 hours per week, and we're obviously times 30 as well. So what does that give us? That gives us 120. So our costs have now reduced massively, okay? The weekly savings on that are $480, okay? That's nearly £2,000 a month, or $2,000, sorry, a month. And that's over $23,000 a year in reclaimed time and money. So what's really interesting about when you start to break this down is this doesn't look like a lot. You see this 120 and you kind of go, well, okay, well, great. We've saved $480 a week, right? So the difference in these two here is 480. Okay, and you're thinking, well, it's not that big of a deal. Like, great, and like, $480 a week, maybe we can afford to do that. Like, who cares? But what you then need to look at is one that $480 over the course of a year. So we work that out as equals $23,000. Okay, but not only that, this is exponential. So in 2 years, obviously it equals 46, and then 69. And so you can see the huge savings you make as time goes on. Okay, now that's only for one employee. Let's say you were a slightly bigger organization and you worked out that same automation or that same piece of AI kit could do this for 4 employees. So then what you're doing is you're going, well, actually we're saving $480 a week per employee, and we can times that by 4, and we're saving 1,000. So let's say 480 times 4 equals 1920 per week. Okay, and then of course you've got that over the course of a year, and that's exponential. Okay, so you can imagine if you've got $23,000 you're saving in a year, you times that by 4, you're going to be saving that $92,000 a year just on your 4 admin employees. So you can start to see the savings are exponential over a period of time rather than you noticing it straight away. But also, don't forget as well, if this admin and this particular individual in this case might be actually she can do tasks that matter to the business, that might give I don't know, we can say this admin maybe helps with proposals, so that increases more revenue that she's helping, efficiency, so there's other things there you can tie into that as well. So, and it's really important. This is actually quite an interesting thing. So there is IBM, there was a study on this in the news. I can't remember when this was, but IBM managed to, I think they unblocked around $3.5 billion in cost savings over 2 years by implementing AI automation functions in areas like HR and procurement. So the key to it is to track time. The key is to track the time. So before you roll out any AI tool, you need to benchmark how long a task currently takes, and that can be quite tricky because that's quite nuanced. And again, not enough for this video, but yeah, you need to understand how long those tasks are typically taking. Cool. So last, but yeah, there's one more thing. So what we want to look at is we want to measure the AI and automation on impact on revenue. Okay, so saving money is great, but the holy grail for every business is using AI to actively make money. So, and measuring AI's impact on revenue is a bit trickier than tracking costs, but it's where you'll often get the biggest returns. Because this means looking beyond simple efficiency and tracking metrics tied directly to sales and marketing. And so there's things that you should be watching. So like your lead conversion rate, your average deal size, customer lifetime value, sales cycle length. I've kind of spoken about these things before in different videos. So when it comes to revenue, and we've got here, so you've got things. I'll just write those down. So your lead conversion rate, lead con rate. You've got your average deal size. Average deal size, and then I also said customer CLV, customer lifetime value, and then your like sales cycle length, and there's a few other in here as well, but again I will leave that for another video. Sales cycle, can't spell cycle length. Cool. The biggest challenge that you've got when it comes to looking at AI and specifically around revenue is what we call attribution. Okay, and attribution is just by going, well, did AI really help with this particular, like, did AI play a part in this increase? Okay, so it's all well and good implementing the AI, but how do you know if AI actually played a part in it, right? And whether or not it was just actually our sales cycle was shorter for that one client. Was it because of the AI, or was it because actually the client was just really good at paying? They were really committed. Maybe your sales team did a really good job. Maybe your proposal was amazing. So there's always going to be that attribution piece. And now, obviously, the gold standard for this is A/B testing. Okay, so how do we do this? We A/B test, and I'm sure you would have all heard about this before. So what you can actually do is, so rather than so like for an example, you send half of your website leads to an AI sales bot and the other half to your usual contact form. After like a number of months, you can then compare the conversion rates. So if the AI group converted 10% higher, you can confidently say that AI did that. Now that's that's an important part, and you can A/B test quite a lot of things. Okay. Let's say if your AI powered marketing campaign brings in, say, an extra $100,000 in sales that you can reliably attribute to it, that's a straight up top line benefit. When you combine this revenue growth with the cost savings we talked about, you start to see like the real transformative power in the financial numbers that AI and a good AI strategy can have on you, right? So, like I say, there's lots to cover in this. This was just a few kind of ideas that I've thought about, that I spoke with clients recently about kind of just measuring AI's, return on investment, the value of it, and it's really important, right? So like the secret to kind of making money with AI isn't like chasing the latest trends, and it's not about chasing the technology. It's about calculating your true ROI by tracking your total investment and measuring it against the real benefits. So look, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will happily to kind of have a conversation with anyone around this, and would love your feedback, and let me know what you think. I can't put it all on the screen there, but yeah, you can kind of see some of the things we spoke about. Starting to understand your true cost is obviously really important. So you've got here your net benefits versus total investment. Always think about the total investment and what that looks like. You've got hours saved, and we did some maths here as well. So yeah, look, hope this helps, and yeah, look, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.